We're getting started early with a surprise live stream. I've got a couple things that I want to show you guys before I go to work. Just got done driving for the last 17 hours of my life. I have slept a total of 3 hours in the last 24. I was transporting Mason Steiner from Red Scare TV from the opposite side of Ohio all the way over to basically Chicago and then all the way back home. So just spent the last 16 hours of my life driving, then 3 hours prior to that napping. So I'm running on very little sleep right now, but I got a couple things I want to talk about. But it was good to see Mason again. Mason's a good friend of mine. So Taliban has taken over Afghanistan, and this calls for celebration. The Taliban has taken over Afghanistan. Taliban, the far-left populist freedom fighters, have finally kicked out the United States imperialists. They support traditional values. They all like to wear suits and ties, and they are all incredibly conservative populists. They're a lot like Putin. I'm a big fan of Putin. I will have you all know that I am a big fan of Putin. Much like Adolf Hitler and Saddam Hussein, they are famous far-left National Socialist populists that will guide Afghanistan to a glorious new era. Okay, now that I'm done with the impression of you-know-who, it's time for some actual commentary on this. But yeah, that's kind of a summary of my thoughts right there. This is straight up some empire in decline shit. America can't pull off a single successful coup d'etat. Like, when was the last time we pulled off a successful coup? They keep failing. Like, we tried one in Bolivia, we tried one in Venezuela, we tried one in a variety of these other places, and none of them were not able to get anything pulled off anymore. America can't pull off a successful coup d'etat. They can't occupy a region filled with a bunch of guerrilla fighters. It goes to show that, like, the U.S. military, for all that's for bravado, is far from invincible. When a bunch of camel jockeys and tribals and peasants out in a third world backwater, armed with AK-47s, can effectively drive us out after just harassing our troops and our occupying force long enough, then it just goes to show, like, America's lost its bite. It's losing its bite. Our bloated military is all that we got left as a country. All we have is our bloated military, and now even that's starting to go, as now when we occupy these regions, slowly but surely we're going to be pulling out. I think what's going to happen is that America is going to have a serious economic crisis, which is going to lead to mass protesting, that is going to lead to mass rioting. And we are going to see the resurrection of the labor movement in the United States. I think the kernel, the seed for a new labor movement is going to be born, as well as breeding ground for more radical politics. And I think the short-term resolution within, say, the next 15 to 20 years is we give up our overbloated military. That's the biggest one. In the end, we are going to give up our overbloated military, and we're going to give up the empire. We're going to give up the majority of our troop presence around the world just because it's not sustainable and we're not getting anything out of it anymore. I mean, imperialism has been on a strategic retreat for decades. It's been on the backswing since World War II. Really, Vietnam and North Korea, like the war in Korea and Vietnam, were the testimonies to the fact that imperialism and colonialism are on their way out. We are moving towards a global era of like a post-imperialist capitalism is what I would call it, like a neo-imperialist, post-imperialist type capitalism, or a new stage of capitalism beyond imperialism, or what I like to call rentier vampire capitalism or neo-feudalism. It is where there is no technological progress, and we lay dormant and stagnant for decades as we have a steady state capitalist economy and just a class or a clique of global oligarchs that just directly extract rent from country to country. You have people that, like, bands and entire droves of people that go from country to country, migrating in and out and going around and about. So yeah, feudalism. I think that's what we're looking for in the coming decades. Is we're looking at basically a callback to feudalism. Um, you know, just little magic ball, little crystal ball, psychic future prediction. But yeah, a little more commentary on Afghanistan. However, I mean, I said this was going to happen. I mean, Kyle from Secular Talk put it best. I mean, this was going to happen no matter what. Like, it doesn't matter if we did it 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago. The Taliban were going to take over the country the second we started to pull out our troop presence because all of our troops are tired of being there. We're not even gaining any resources from it. We're not getting anything out of our occupants in Afghanistan. So this is the reason why we're on our way out the door. Because transnational bourgeoisie aren't even getting like the hard minerals. I mean, there's a lot of silicon in Afghanistan. However, the Taliban is not going to build up the refineries needed to harvest the minerals in their mountains. All right. And for a number of reasons, America's not going to get the minerals out of those mountains either. Afghanistan is currently still, or was up until recently, a major exporter of opium. And we'll see what the Taliban does with it. But back when the Taliban were in charge about 20, 22 years ago, they chopped down all the poppy fields and cut down on opiate production and the growth of opium cash crops. And then when America went in and we liberated them, Afghanistan became the number one exporters of opium in the world. Now, I will tell you guys that the last 50 years of Afghanistan history has been all kinds of fucked. All kinds of fucked. All kinds of fucked. It was only starting to be unfucked the moments that they had a socialist revolution. That's when things were just starting to get better. But nah, here comes America to finance the Mujahideen, and everything falls apart again. The remnants of the Mujahideen have become the Taliban and are now trying to kick us out of country. Oh, no. You mean us arming a bunch of reactionary Islamic extremists totally fucking backfired? Whoa, Jesus. What a clairvoyance prediction, What a huge revelation. Caleb Maupin is not a supporter, and he did not say that. No, do you people not understand what a joke is? I'm making fun of Caleb because recently I saw his shit with Dugan and how he was talking about populism. And he said some things during his talk with Dugan that did not good optics, man. Not a good look for Caleb. All right. Just the pandering to right wingers, the trying to pander to populists. I mean, fuck it. I tried to make peace with Caleb. I tried to make friends with Caleb, but the motherfucker can't take criticism. He can't even take the barest bit of criticism, which is, pretty sacrosanct if you're a left winger. So, I mean, it is what it is. So, anyways. So, yeah, America's finally out of Afghanistan. 22 years, thousands of innocent lives, all this blood spilled, all of these resources wasted. This is going to be a good talking point for the future, guys, because we can basically say, whenever some dipshit Republican says, oh, well, how are you going to pay for it? Just point to the Afghan war. How are we going to pay for our pointless, adventurous wars, Just, oh, how are you going to pay for it? Well, how are we going to pay for the Afghan war? Point is that if we can piss away billions of fucking dollars on the endless occupancy of these third world countries, we can afford to build some actual infrastructure rather than fucking privatize it. But anyways, I do have something else that I would like to show you guys. Something very entertaining, very funny, very entertaining. All right. So let's go to my bread and butter. All right. I've only got about, damn you motherfucking, let me share this motherfucking screen. Okay. I'm going to try to leave the studio. I'll be right back. Do not fret. I'm just going to leave and return so that I can share my screen. There we go. There we go. I fixed it, guys. I fixed it. Technical difficulties are done. Technical difficulties have been fixed. All right. So we got about 6 minutes. I found this on Lefty Poll, and this is way too goddamn funny not to watch. So, Tribune of the People, a revolutionary news service. The Gonzaloists are at it again. All right. I've just got done taking the piss out of everyone's favorite revisionists. Now I've got to take the piss out of the ultra left. I found this shit just now, and this is very entertaining to me. So we're going to watch this. But first, I'm going to make sure our sound's working. So let's go ahead and go full screen, share audio. Let's do this. I personally think there's a potential in leftists learning from Dugin and his fourth political. Dugin's a quack, bro. I don't think there is a lot to take away. I think his analysis of political theory is decent, but otherwise his solutions and his proposals are batshit insane, as an understatement. But anyways. Haas is one of the few true leftists who could even think of questioning. It's just trying to stir up trouble. I don't know. I don't know what Haas is saying. Expect a 2-hour drama video in StreamYard coming your way. Oh, yeah, no. I bet one of the Moppinites are going to see this, and then they're going to show Caleb. Honestly, it's good for my analytics, so I don't really give a shit. But more than likely, he'll just ignore me and block me on Twitter again. That's the worst-case scenario. So you guys ready to see the baby boilers in action? Let's do this. Let's see the baby boilers in action. Yes. That's what I'm talking about. Kicking the shit out of random people. This is praxis, guys. You need to learn from their example and go around kicking the shit out of people.
Women are the violent ones, you guys. There's just as many women as there are men. And you know what? They're all ages, they're all sizes, and they're all colors.
This is the Austin Police Department. If you walk in the street, it's a violation of state law.
The only thing they're missing is a mock. All they're missing is a mock human sacrifice in the form of a toy baby in a boiling pot of water. That's right, guys. The 17 swords of Marx. We've got Marx, Engels, Lenin, Stalin, Mao, and then we have Gonzalo, who is like the most mundane and unaccomplished of the six. You know, I always find it funny though, like Gonzaloists will uphold Chairman Gonzalo, but like he didn't even take over the country, and they'll say, well, the Shining Path took over the countryside. They took over more part of the country. They ruled 70% of Peru at one point. Well, okay, but name one city they took over. Name a military base that they seized. All right. They went out in the countryside into a bunch of unoccupied land, and they just camped out in the countryside. You know, you try to do this shit in the United States, your ass is going to get fucking drone striked. So protracted people's war is not universal, and I think even the gonzos here recognize that. Honestly, I don't really. I think Gonzalo, I'm sure he had some good contributions to the theory. I've never read Gonzalo, but what I will say is that I don't think he's worth canonizing like a saint in the church the way that they're canonizing the 5 other heads of Marx. I mean, all these figures, like the big 5, are definitely worth like reading from and veterating because they all made great contributions to theory. But like, I mean, there's so much more to Marxism than the big 5 as well. I mean, what about Gramsci? What about Luxemburg? You know, I mean, a friend of mine, a comrade of mine from the Cincinnati Socialists, just gave me a free book recently talking about Rosa. Or no, it was Rosa's Reform or Revolution, and I've been meaning to read that. And I probably will once I've gotten more than like an hour of fucking sleep. But anyways, I like their energy. I'm not gonna lie. I appreciate their energy. I appreciate that they're you know, they're very intersectional. It's 50-50 men and women. You know, it's just, I find it funny that an org that proclaims to be about the masses, that proclaims to be about serve the people, lead the people, only has like a paltry like 30 people showing up to their Labor Day march. You know, you'd think there'd be thousands of people here if the 69th Sword of Marx here, like this guy right here, if the 69th Sword of Marx really was fucking what it's all cracked out to be, I'm pretty sure Mr. Gonzo here would I don't know. I just feel like they would be accomplishing more than what they are now, because, you know, this is like, you know, not that much different from a LARP. I'm not going to lie.
It's up 2020, yeah.
Fuck yeah. Kick the shit out of him. Yeah, punch that old man. Yeah, take that reaction. Oh, damn, that dude's got blood all over his face. Shit. Ah, damn it. Did I just lose internet connection? I will cry if I just lost connection. Come on. Here we go.
Thank you, sir. God bless the APT.
Oh
He was defending me. Revolution People's War. Revolution People's War.
Like I said, I respect the energy, but is this what the final Sword of Marx has to offer? Like the Church of Gonzalo, is this all the best that supposedly the most advanced and theoretically enlightened Marxists have to offer? A fringe cult marching around in the streets with red flags? I mean, shit, dude. I know of some liberals in my hometown that orchestrated the BLM protests, and they were able to get thousands of people to turn out. So, you know, for an org that claims to be all about the masses, I find it funny that they can't get more than like 30 people to show up to their little march here on Labor Day.
May Day demonstration took place 130 years ago. We honor their fight by taking to the streets in spite of everything. Our red flags aloft and our hearts filled with revolutionary optimism, with the utmost faith in the people to overcome all odds and sweep imperialism and reaction from the face of the earth. Communists the whole world over are marching irrepressibly towards great international unity. The international communist movement has the greatest teacher, Chairman Gonzalo, who has converted his prison cell in Peru into the most shining...
My man.
Long live Chairman Gonzalo!
His teachings allow
Inshallah.
us to the old world and impose the new,
Inshallah.
overcoming all difficulties,
Allahu
uniting all
Akbar.
revolutionaries under the red banner of Maoism, to be finally victorious as we, the workers of the world...
I'm not gonna lie.
communism
If they actually practiced protracted people's war as the Shining Path did, well, one, I would think they are a lot more based if they actually did that. I'm not going to lie. I would have 50 times the respect for these people if they were actually out there camping in the woods or in the streets and gunning down cops. I mean, they wouldn't have my support, but they would have my blessing. And that would be, as incredibly based as that would be, effectively, that would just make them like basically the left-wing version of ISIS if they did that. They would basically be like the communist Taliban, which is only slightly based.
We state firmly today, our goal is the eradication of class. Make a casket for the old society!
Make a casket for the old society!
Long live the revolutionary 1st of May, International Day of Proletariat!
Long live the revolutionary 1st of May! International Day of the Proletariat!
Yeah, so I'm not going to rag on these guys too hard because, like I said, I respect the energy and I respect the passion and so on, and I like that they're dedicated, but I just feel like they could be doing so much more and accomplishing so much more, and I don't really see like how much of a message you're getting out there, how much you're shaking the establishment when you've only got about 30 guys waving around flags, you know? Contact me when you've got 1,000 people out there in the streets shutting down highways and blocking major intersections, you know? Now you've got yourself something. Let me know when you've got 1,000 people staking it out at City Hall with a list of demands for workers, rather than what looks like just a bunch of people basically posturing as revolutionaries or posturing as, you know, these great protest leaders. But yeah, so let's see what else people have to say. What a bunch of psychos. I wish they didn't call themselves Glowing Path. Being as adventurous and theatrical as Nazis. Yeah, no, this is a great deal, very theatrical. So this probably is going to step on some toes and touch some nerves, but this does feel very fucking performative to me as well. Occupied, not turn communist. Why? Because the spontaneity of these, the spontaneous nature of these protests and these riots and so on are not going to lead inherently to reform or socialism in and of itself. It's mostly just catharsis, as in the general public lashing out against the system that's fucked them over. It's the reason why we saw record numbers of protests in like every major city across the country last year with the BLM protests. You know, the public execution of George Floyd went viral, and during a pandemic when everyone's unemployed and locked down for 2 months straight, you know, people had a lot of anger and a lot of resentment towards the system bottled up that they needed to cathartically lash out. However, without communist orgs taking this energy, you know, because spontaneity is like fire, all right? Spontaneous uprisings are a lot like fire. If it is harnessed and it is channeled into, say, a kiln or a furnace, you can forge something great out of it. That's where we come in, the communists. However, without proper ideological guidance, without proper leadership, without proper strong central organization, it's just going to lead to the establishment co-opting and recuperating these movements as they did last year. You know, you saw the establishment completely co-opt and recuperate it, and what they do, they neutered it. And this is like the destiny for all of these protests, all of these riots. That's like the ultimate destiny of these spontaneous uprisings, because there's no ideological goals, there's no list of demands or reforms. They're not well organized. They're just spontaneous lashing out from the public. And you're going to see an upsurge in that as the years go by and as the contradictions intensify. And our job as leftists is to harness it. Remember when I used the fire analogy? Fire without a kiln or a crucible is just going to burn out. Its destructive and raw, naked power cannot truly be channeled and utilized. And in the same manner that fire is harnessed in a kiln, we as communists need to harness that fervor and channel it into something productive. All right? So, you know, we can have our spontaneous uprisings, but until there's a concrete list of demands and leadership at the helm that's actually fighting for socialism, I mean, nothing ultimately is going to come of it. You aren't going to start seeing your FDR style reforms. You're not going to see your Bernie Sanders type politicians popping out of the woodworks in record numbers until you see the threat of revolution on the corner. Shut up, dog. They were just like, we want change. Exactly. I rest my case. That's exactly what I'm talking about. You know? That's exactly what I am talking about here. I'll say it one last time before I go back to making fun of Caleb Maupin. Revolutionary or spontaneous uprising, spontaneous fervor is like fire, while communist organizations and parties are like a kiln harnessing that fire. And that is ultimately what our job is to harness that and channel it into something productive, into something concrete in the form of some real reforms or demands from the governments, you know? And what this means is actual class struggle, guys. Like, that's what we need. We don't need people charging out in the middle of the streets with flags. As much as I appreciate the gesture and I appreciate the energy, what we need is, you know, the complete locking down and shutting down of business as usual until our demands are met. You know, I'm talking general strike. I'm talking protests out the wazoo. I'm talking shutting down major intersections and highways. I am talking about disrupting business as usual to the extent to where we are costing these greedy assholes at the top billions of dollars a day with our actions and activities. Then they will start to listen to us. So with that being said, well, yeah, because they were brainwashed. Will there ever be a video on the Soviet-Afghan intervention? And, you know, I've been meaning to do that. Like, I've been meaning to do up a follow-up video on so-called Soviet imperialism, where I talk about that as well as other examples of Soviet imperialism. And I was going to basically overview Soviet foreign policy, but I'll give you the short versions now. The Gonzaloists are full of shit. That's the short version for now. Can general strike work today? The lockdowns were de facto general strikes and things kept going. During a recession, during times of busts, general strikes are not as effective. But if you get enough people striking, if you get enough of the country and enough essential workers participating in the general strike, then yes, it is absolutely effective, 100%. If you got a bunch of truckers, like truckers all across the country, teachers across the country, in these essential workplace choke points, in these essential hard points, like if you like just the truckers, for example, if you could just get the truckers, the trucking industry by itself to do a countrywide general strike, that would bring this country to its knees, because we don't have any mass public transit. So a lot of our distribution is based on time drop-offs and deliveries of truckloads of consumer goods. But if those on-time deliveries that are like our transportation infrastructure is actually rather frail. So like if these on-time deliveries that need to be done on a daily basis cease for just a couple of days, you will cost the bourgeoisie billions of dollars. So that's just an example of what I'm talking about. Yes, they are. But you can still appeal to their material interests. I mean, many people that work among the working class are reactionary, all right? What is to be done about the reactionary working class? You need to appeal directly to their material interests and get them to care. Because, I mean, you think the fucking peasantry in Russia were these super far left progressives? No, they weren't. Many of them were conservatives, you know? Many of them were conservative, many of them were right-wing, and still, the peasantry made up a large percentage of the population supporting the October Revolution, despite the fact that the peasantry were deeply reactionary. So, you stick to the demands, peace, land, and bread. If you give the goods, they will come. If you give the goods, they will come. But last little video that I want to show you guys, and we'll go ahead and close. I'm going into work late because I'm not getting my attendance bonus anyways. Let's do this. So, guys, are you ready for some socialism now? Are you ready for some socialism now? Just making sure my sound's on. There we go. You guys ready for some socialism now? Let's get some socialism now.
Socialism now.
Socialism now. Socialism now. Socialism now. Socialism now. Socialism now.
We are. Louder. We are. We are. We are. CPI.
Welcome, everybody. So we are a group that advocates for socialism and communism education in the United States. I'd like to start by reading our Pledge of Unity. We pledge that we shall remember this unity forged at the end of the Second World War, not only today, not only this week or this year, but always. Until we have built the world that we have dreamed of and fought for, we pledge ourselves to build the unity of the people of the world. All races, all colors, all nationalities, all beliefs, to eliminate all traces of fascism from the earth, to build a deep and sincere international friendship among the people of the world, to keep a just lasting peace, to eliminate want
against fascism, huh? Maybe you guys should stop pandering to fucking right-wingers and like middle-class people so hard. Maybe you should actually be trying to convert people to socialism rather than pandering to their reactionary thought for the sake of political, short-term political gain, you know? Like, that's like my biggest criticism of Maupin is the fact that he panders to right-wingers as hard as he does. Like, he treats them as a prime demographic. And then he fucking poverty shames millennials. He's like calling us hedonists and hedonists, you know, because we don't like to wear a shirt and tie or a suit like him. That means, you know, it's somehow a bad thing because we don't like to wear tuxedos like Caleb. Bro, why do you care about what people do in their spare time? Why do you give a shit about how workers dress? Shouldn't you just be supporting the workers? Like, shouldn't you just, like, isn't this about the liberation of the workers, the emancipation of workers? So you're about the emancipation of the working class, but you're going to fucking try to micromanage how people dress? Like, what's with that shit? Like, why do you care? It literally doesn't fucking matter. Also, their cult is less impressive than the last cult that I saw. Very sad, very low energy. This lady looks like she's going to take a nap. I give the Gonzalowitz a 10 out of 10, you know, because they're out there running around with flags and pictures of Gonzalo, and they're beating the shit out of people. You know, that's the kind of energy I like. But, you know, look at this shit, man. Sad, very low energy. Very low energy.
frustration, and enforced idleness, we have come to confirm the unity of all people, to salute our comrades who have died, and to pledge our world that skillful hands, keen brains, and bold enthusiasm shall nevermore be wasted in war.
Yeah!
I'm Keith Mansfield. I'm with the Center for Political Innovation and the Young Ground Volunteers. It's very rare for any political organization, regardless of ideology or alignment, to have a team on the ground every day, and we folks have that. We out on the streets distributing literature about our organization. This is a rare thing that's a blessing. We have, within the last 2 to 3 weeks, distributed over 1,200 copies of our poem card.
Yeah!
Congratulations.
Yeah, well-deserved applause.
Congratulations.
We have also distributed over 600 pins and buttons that read "Cancel Student Debt" or "In the Wars, Bring the Troops Home."
As Lennon taught us how to make our destiny, Ho Chi Minh and Castro too can make the whole world see that our fight is all the same, whether black or Asian or white. In time the days will come, all good people must fight. We are revolutionaries, and we'll fight.
Yeah, I don't think we need this.
Revolutionaries, and we'll win the battle.
Yes, as we believe. For 77,
You know, the life expectancy in 1960 was 43. Today it's 76, I believe.
for 77.
Yes. As people know, China
Yeah.
made a commitment
Hooray for
to
life
green
expectancy.
poverty by 2020,
Woo!
and they deployed 2.9 million people, not to mail people checks, but to run around, go to the places where people have been impoverished for generations and discover what makes them poor, and then tackle it.
We have also a big problem, big challenge to survive.
Shut up!
We had
I'm in the middle of a
warming.
live
We had
stream.
all-
I'm sorry, guys. 1 second. I'm getting this fucking dog out of here. You, get out. 5 minutes. I need 5 minutes. Get the fuck out of here. Sorry about that, guys. I can barely hear this. Is the audio down? Let me see if I can turn the audio up. Oh, it is down. There we go. Did you guys have trouble hearing that? Here. We'll start from the beginning.
Socialism now! Socialism now! Socialism now! Socialism now! Socialism now!
Socialism.
City builders. We are. City builders. We are.
Yeah, city building. Hell yeah. Now I can actually hear them. Fuck yeah. But I'm going to go to here. We're going to start from here.
3. Today it's 76, I believe, or 77.
Yeah, she's talking about life
Yes.
expectancy in
As
China,
people
I
know,
think.
China made a commitment to end extreme poverty by 2020, and they deployed 2.9 million people, not to mail people checks, but
Yes.
to run around, go to the
Yes.
places.
Let's redefine poverty so that nobody falls below its line. That's what I'm talking about, man. That's what China did. That's how they lifted 800 million people out of poverty. They just redefined the term so that magically 800 million people came out overnight. I mean, I'm not saying that like haven't been improvements in living standards in China, but yes, industrialization, modernization, and advances in the productive forces as a consequence increase the general levels of wealth in society, which leads to an improvement in living standards. They could see even faster and even superior improvements in living standards under a socialist system where they're not openly tolerating landlords and billionaires.
Where people have been impoverished for generations and discover what makes them poor and then tackle it.
We have also
You will never not have poverty under capitalism. Just throwing that out there now. You will never not have poverty under capitalism. Even if it doesn't matter how much wealth is created, you're still going to have relative poverty. You're still going to have inequality, which is like human beings are literally allergic to income inequality. It causes so many negative public health outcomes you can't even imagine. I got a book about it by Wilkinson and Pickett called The Spirit Level that basically showcases that the more unequal a society is, the greater the levels of structural violence and like preventable death and crime and mental illness and drug abuse and like child mortality, infant mortality, like literally public health outcomes across the board drop the more greater and unequal society is. So, and China is one of the most unequal societies on earth. They're number 2 in the world for billionaires. So make of that as you will.
a big problem, big challenge to survive. We have the global warming. We have all this ecological disaster that's taking place all over. We have also we will be facing food insecurity because climate change is going to affect all the entire food system all over the planet. So while we are just dealing with all these ridiculous problems, we should be dealing with issues that are huge, that to guarantee the survival of the human species on the planet. But no, we have to deal with these ridiculous things.
I cannot understand a single word this man is saying. I'm going to skip ahead.
Jamie Dimon is so damn wrong.
Yeah, I don't think I want this either.
So I propose that we build a new type of common sense for the 21st century, that we fight for the Bill of Rights, an economic Bill of Rights that was proposed by FDR, finished a New Deal, so that we may be on the road to socialism in our lifetime.
No, absolutely not. No, why would you even bring up FDR as an example of the construction of socialism? FDR was a ruling class compromise that was thrown to lull the workers back to sleep during a period of revolution. The likes of FDR and the Social Democrats are absolutely not our friends, and the path towards socialism is not going to come through reform. It is not going to come through what you people are suggesting right here. So I don't know what it is with this neo-Bernsteinian bullshit. I don't know why they're adulating Franklin D. Roosevelt, a literal fucking anti-communist who went out of his way to pass legislation along with his predecessors or his successors have literally passed like a slew of anti-communist legislation, which led to the direct liquidation of the labor movement in the United States, the complete expulsion of communists and socialists from the unions, the firing of communists from their jobs, the deportation, the jailing of thousands of socialists and communists, to the outright execution, in fact. Some people, yeah, the U.S. government has outright executed communists as well during the 40s and 50s. So, you know, I find it very funny you're going to use a literal fucking anti-communist that was given as a concession to crush communism as an example of how we're going to build communism. You know, this is peak revisionism.
Yeah.
You know, if you're a parent and your child doesn't have proper clothing and it's wintertime and they're coming to school without proper clothes, you can be arrested. Why? You can be charged with criminal neglect. Well, I charge the government of the United States with criminal neglect at this moment. Criminal neglect. Our country is falling apart. Roads are crumbling. Schools are crumbling. There's an opioid epidemic. People are dying. People are hungry. People are homeless. People don't have jobs. And they're focused on bombing and destroying countries around the world instead of feeding Americans. I charge the government of the United States with criminal neglect. We at the Center for Political Innovation say it's time that instead of having a government that sits on its hands, what Roosevelt called do-nothing government, it's time that we have a government of action that fights for working families.
Why? Why are these people quoting Franklin D. Roosevelt like he's some sort of model to uphold? Like I said over and over again, Roosevelt was a literal fucking anti-communist that was introduced to crush socialism, to crush the very fervor that these people advocate. And this is what I'm saying, man. It doesn't sound to me like the CPI folk or the Moppenites are really genuine or serious about the construction of socialism or revolution when they're listen to what he said. He's like, oh, we gotta make the government give more reforms. We got to make the government actually, like, you know, invest in infrastructure. So it sounds to me like they're not really advocating for a new proletarian worker state, a dictatorship of the proletariat in the United States. Sounds to me like they're pushing for a very class collaborationist, very neo-revisionist line, which is not good. I'm telling you guys, the history of class collaboration and revisionism has not brought the workers one fucking micrometer closer to communism. So that's a serious red flag. Just saying, red flag, red motherfucking flag. I shouldn't even be using that term because the red flag has its origins amongst anti-communism. So I'm going to say yellow flag because that's capitalism. That's more liberalism. The yellow flag. That's a yellow flag, comrades. That's a yellow flag, you know. From time to time, you know, the Moppenites definitely give me more of a brown flag vibe, but that's definitely a yellow flag. All right. So that's my biggest complaint. They're pushing for a very strong pro-government, pro-class collaborationist line. It doesn't sound to me like they're calling for a new system. They're just calling for tweaks and improvements on the current one. It's a very petty bourgeois, labor aristocrat view of how we're going to make the world a better place or build some kind of socialism, and I completely disagree with it. The organs of workers' control need to seize state power and depose the organs of capitalist control because the bourgeois state is made to facilitate the ruling class and the capitalist system. So we need to depose and remove that state with the establishment of a new proletarian dictatorship built to facilitate proletarian values, a proletarian political economy, in fact, an actual socialism, you know? Not this neo-revisionist claptrap crap that isn't going to take us any closer to the liberation of humanity. So, anyways, something's off about Caleb. I was part of it for a while. They're a fucking cult. That's what's off about them, dude. Anybody who goes out of their way to insulate themselves from external criticism to the extent that Caleb does, anyone who's like actively hostile to outsiders to the extent to where they will physically assault other left-wingers, these people are cultists. Like, don't kid yourself. Like, Caleb Moppman is a fucking cult leader. I made a video criticizing his stupid-ass socialist billionaires take, and then the Moppenites swarm in and are just like, oh, you out of context. Isn't it funny how whenever people's favorite demagogue on the internet is criticized or comes under fire for their bullshit, people just turn into Jordan Peterson fans and are like, oh, you're taking them out of context, and they'll make excuses for these people. I thought we were supposed to be Marxists. I thought we were supposed to be leftists. I thought that criticism of others was supposed to be a central value, you know, as a tenet to our movement. And the fact that Caleb insulates himself to the extent that he does, that he will preemptively block people who have even levied the lightest bit of criticism towards him, is absolutely ludicrous. Like that, like I don't know what else to say besides that. But this is not good, healthy behavior that is healthy for the discourse, you know? Sure, yeah, no. I'm not above criticism. If you guys got criticism, then I'll hear it out. Like, I always try to improve. I aim to please, you know? And that was the whole point of my criticism of Maupin's socialist billionaires take. It was mostly constructive. I mean, I know I made kind of an off-colored comment in the beginning where I jokingly called Caleb, you know, a Russian asset and a cult leader, but that's because he acts like a cult leader and because he is literally a Russian asset. He works for RT, you know. So I was kind of half joking, but otherwise, like, it was mostly like constructive criticism I was giving in my view, you know. All right, dude, I think Caleb can lecture you on revisionism, but I hope I'm wrong. Caleb Maupin is never going to talk to me. This conversation is never, ever going to happen, guys. Not a year from now, not 10 years from now, not 100 years from now. Me and Caleb Maupin are never going to be on speaking terms, all right? People have tried to get me on speaking terms with Caleb, but it's not going to fucking happen, guys. Like, me and Caleb Maupin are never going to have a conversation, not just because I've criticized him in the past, but because I'm criticizing him right now and rightly calling him out and his group out on their fucking neo-revisionist, neo-Bernsteinian bullshit. You think I've got Caleb Maupin wrong? Well, you're free to think that. But I'm going to kill the stream, guys. I got to go to work. I got to head out. Oh, it's because I'm not on his level. Oh, you're right. You're right, guys. Oh, I'm not on Caleb Maupin's level. He's so much smarter than me. The great Caleb Maupin, who is above criticism and scrutiny of all forms and all kinds. Anyways, I'm already running late to work, so I hope you guys enjoyed the stream. I certainly did. Yeah. Peace.